introduction on the Skandacor PODTopic 380. We're going to go over the features of the machine and how to operate the machine, both lamination and utilizing the Sleek Pro technology. We're now going to go over the mechanical controls of the Skandacor PODTopic 380. At the front operator side, we have the main control console, which we'll go over in more detail momentarily. We have our pressure regulator, control knob, and pressure gauge here that controls our nip roller. We have our in-feed belts that feed our sheets into the machine. On both the left and the right, I have my paper sheet guides that I use for alignment to guide the sheets in. In the very front, we have our control gate that controls the overlap and release of our sheets into the nip rollers. The front of the machine, we have our chrome roller nip roller system. So that is a hardened steel chrome shaft that provides a very smooth finish for laminate and a tremendous amount of pneumatic pressure for when we're utilizing the Sleek Pro technology for foiling. We have here our electrical switch that controls pressure on the pull rollers or release of the pull rollers. We want it in release mode for sleeking. We have our decurler knob here. The decurler controls my blade down below to allow for perfect flat sheets when running single-sided lamination. On the top here, we have our supply mandrel. That is where we insert our supply of material onto the machine. That is controlled by this tension knob in this corner. So I can put more or less tension on this unwind shaft utilizing this tension knob. I have my E-safety switch here. In case of an emergency, I can press that down to turn off the power on the machine. The back here is our cutting system that's utilized for cutting the film apart between sheets. What we have here at the back is our rewind mandrel. For when we're utilizing the Sleek Pro technology, we rewind our material back on here for recycling and dispose of or reuse if it so allows. At the very back of the machine is our main control switch for power. Turning it down to the O is off, the I position is on. We have our exit tray at the very back where our product comes down and cascades into the supply tray. We're now going to showcase the different functions of the touchscreen control panel. Our main button at the top here is a dial switch. When you push it down, it will read the current temperature that the chrome roller is at. When you release it, it goes back to the set temperature. Whenever you want to change any of these values on the different control, once it is illuminated, you can then adjust the value of that position. When you originally set up the job, you start with your paper length, and you can adjust your sheet length. Turning it clockwise increases the value of the sheet. Turning it counterclockwise decreases the length of the sheet. You want to set your temperature. You increase by going clockwise, decrease going counterclockwise. The speed, by default, it's always going to go to speed 3 until the machine is running. Once the machine is running, you illuminate the speed button and you can turn the speed up or down from that point. It has values 1 through 10. The reverse function is obviously reversing anything back out of the machine. And in order to reverse, you touch it and hold the reverse button down the entire time that you need to reverse the machine. When you release, the machine will automatically stop. The center button here is our load button. When you touch the load button, it will jog all the rollers forward and engage the rollers the entire time that you hold it down. When you release, it stops. The middle button here is our job function. That will auto recall different jobs that are set into memory. To change any of those jobs, turn it clockwise or counterclockwise on the dial, and it will go to presets that are in there. It also allows the user to set up job specifics for speed and temperature if you find a job that you have a special setting for. The stop button is in the dead center with the red illumination. Anytime the machine is paused, that red light will be illuminated. In order for the machine to run, it must have paper in the sensors in order for you to touch the run button in order for it to go. The cutting home button that is on the flying knife, that will home the flying knife in its home position if it is not in the home position. Once you start running your job and you want to cut the film apart between the sheets, you engage the cutting on-off, and that will illuminate once it is on when the machine is running. Cutting position, you can micro adjust your cut position once you're actually running the machine. So that is the features of the touchscreen control. Today we're going to be showing you how to laminate single-sided using the Skandacor PODTopic 380. Today we've got a 13 by 19 sheet that we're going to apply our Scuff Pro matte film to the surface of this sheet. When you're laminating single-sided, the width of my sheet is 13 inches in this application, and my film always needs to be narrower than the width of my sheet, but outside of the crop mark area. So the film that I'm running today is a 12 3/4 inch wide film on a 13 inch wide sheet. So we're going to go ahead and set the laminator up for this job. First I want to do is set my side guides for my paper, and I always do my measurements off of this side panel because it's in line with this side panel, so my film alignment can be correct. So with a 13 inch wide sheet, I can measure this distance, and I have approximately a 17 inch wide throat, meaning that I'm going to have approximately 4 inches to play with. So I want to set my paper guides here approximately 2 inches from this edge. So I'm going to go ahead and set those guides approximately 2 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my sheet of paper. Once I bring it into this gate, you can see it will go and come to a stop point. Now I can move this over, and this allows for these sides to be set nice and perfectly at the 90-degree point to the front gate. My side guides are now correct, 90 degrees with my front gate. And inside there in the gate are little fingers down inside there, and when they drop down, they are what stops the front edge of the sheet. Now I'm going to come up to my supply mandrel. To load my film, I remove my Allen key, set that in this nice holder position. I now have a rubber ring on this side of the gripper shaft, which I can remove. I have my roll of Scuff Pro matte laminate, and it's adhesive on the inside. So I want to load this roll onto this shaft. And how these grippers work is as they rotate, they're on a concentric, so they come out, and these brass grippers grab the inside of the core and grip my film. Now, as I previously said, I want the edge of my film just inset on the paper. So I know that my paper is 2 inches from the frame. So I want this to be about 2 1/8 inch. And if you can see there, I'm at approximately 2 1/8 inch from this frame to the edge of my lamination film. If I needed to move these mandrels left or right, I take my Allen key, put it in this set screw, counterclockwise releases it, and I can move this shaft around, and I can move that position if I need to move the roll left or right. With this being in position, I want to just finger tight. Do not ever take the key this direction, put it in, and turn it, because you will snap this plastic mandrel gripper. Now take my rubber ring, put this in, and that will securely hold my roll in place. Whenever I'm doing roll changes that are the same width, this allows for the rubber ring to be taken off and the roll simply to be slid off the gripper shaft and the new roll slid on. Now we'll put the cantilever support back in place, put that Allen key back in, and that steadies everything on the supply roll. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to load the lamination material through the machine. Now we're going to go through and actually load the lamination material into the machine. So I start with an unprinted sheet of paper, and on the left hand side I'm going to put a slight curl in that sheet. As you can see, I've put a slight curl in that. I'm going to remove the front safety shield. That slight curve in the paper allows me to put this between the chrome roller and the nip roller. And then I rotate the sheet straight, bring it through the machine, and it will come in between the decurler bar and the decurler roller, and will allow me to bring this right into the pull roller. So now my sheet is all the way through the nip roller and all the way through the pull roller. So here again, you can see my sheet of paper coming between the roller and my decurler bar and going through the pull roller just before the knife. I leave myself about 6 to 8 inches of paper here. I'm now going to take my supply roll of film, and this chrome roller right now is at about 205 degrees. So it is warm to the touch, so you want to exert caution when you're bringing the film down that you never let the adhesive side of the film touch this roller, or you will have to clean the roller. So what I start with, bring the film around this idler roller, and I want to do a few wrap-ups of film. So I do about 4 windings of film, and what that does, that just provides a bit more stability in the film. And then I take both my edges and I fold it to create a bit of a triangle effect there. Now I briefly touch this to the heated roller, and that will fuse the film to itself. Like I said, this is about 205 degrees, so you can see how the film is being activated. Do the same with the operator's side of the edge of my film here. So now I have film that's sealed to itself, and the importance of why I curl those edges in is with thin gauge film, it has the tendency to want to curl the other way, and I'm preventing the adhesive from sticking to the chrome roller. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is take my sheet of paper and I'm going to stick it right to this laminate film. Now I've fused the film to the paper, as you can see. So I'm going to take up that slack. Now I'm going to go ahead And I'm going to put my safety shield back in position. And this has a safety interlock, and that must be engaged in order for the machine to run. So my lock is in place. Now I'm going to take one more sheet of paper, put it against the front gate in position. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up the job. So my temperature, I'm going to illuminate the temperature button. I'm going to increase this to about 215 degrees for our Scuff Pro matte laminate film. I'm going to adjust my paper length. This is a 13-inch sheet. So I'm going to adjust this to my 19-inch length and my 13-inch width. That's in position now. When I touch down on the button, it's going to tell me what my current temperature is at. My current temperature is at 205, which is hot enough to activate. So I'm going to go ahead and load the machine, send the first sheet of paper through. So with this sheet tucked up against the front gate, I'm going to hold the load button. And that sheet's going to advance into the laminator. And I'm going to pause it just as that sheet stopped there. I never want to allow bare film to come in contact with the lower roller. You always want a sheet of paper underneath to protect that lower roller. Now I'm going to put one more sheet, and I'm overlapping this current sheet that's in there. And now I just want to check the back of the machine to make sure that my sheet is coming out okay, which it's come through my back set of rollers, through the cutter assembly, and it's exiting out the back. This knob here, I want to make sure that it's in the pressure setting. The press setting is for when you're doing lamination. So this is in the press mode currently. For my regulator, I'm going to increase this to approximately 0.5 bar of pressure, which is the needle at about the 12 o'clock point for the lamination that I'm doing today. So I'm now going to run just a little bit more laminate film. I want to run this edge of my last sheet of paper. I'm going to stop it. I generally stop it between my two gray knobs, is where I want to stop that tail of film. So I'm going to go ahead and touch the load button, advance this sheet through, and I'm going to stop it approximately in that area. Now I'm going to tap the load button one more time, and what that does is that homes this front gate and allows me to take my job, and now I can start with my first print. I'm going to put that right up against that front gate, so you'll feel this sheet should nice squarely tuck up against that front gate. Some operators prefer to use these side guides here on the left side. Personal preference, you can move these into position if you prefer. Sometimes if you've done it too tight, it will pinch the sheet. I generally like to bring it just close and then lock that in position just on the tail side. So now I'm ready to run my job. So I can go ahead and hit the run button. And what I'm going to do, once I hit the run button, I'm going to slow the machine down to speed 1, just to make sure everything is coming through the machine fine. Once my first sheet is coming out clean, then I'm going to turn my cutting module on that will automatically cut my sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the run button. And then with my speed illuminated, I'm going to lower my speed down to speed 1. Now you'll see the machine is slowed down. Out the back of the machine are my initial pieces that I put through, and now my finished sheet is coming through the machine. With this green light illuminated, that tells me that I can go ahead and set my next sheet on top of the other sheet that's in the machine. And this gate system, once that gate rotates back, the green light will illuminate, and it will now allow me to put my next sheet of paper in. I'm going to go ahead and turn the cutting unit on now. So once I turn the cutting on, the machine is going to automatically separate my sheets at the cutting module here at the next overlap. So now you'll see the sheets are exiting out the back of the machine. They've all been cut. My laminate film is just inset from the edge of my paper on both sides. Now I'm going to adjust my decurl. This decurl is the blade down there, and I'm going to turn this clockwise. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring the blade of the decurler up against the back side of the sheet, and when it strikes the sheet while the film is going through the process and being warm, it reverses the curl from the laminate film being applied. Now, if there was any wrinkles in the sheets at all, I would adjust my tension knob up here. I can increase or decrease the tension that is a clutch that clutches this shaft that applies tension to the film. The more I increase the tension, the less wrinkles I'll have as the film is coming over my nip roller. But if you increase too much tension on the film will neck. And what that terminology means is the film will get very narrow as it's being applied to the sheet. So if you have a 12 3/4 wide film with too much tension, you may neck that film down to 12 1/4 inches. And on thinner stocks, what that will do is it will cause the sheets to curl side to side, which we do not want. We want the sheet to lay naturally and flat. So it's important that your tension is just enough so there's no wrinkles with the film being applied, but not too taut where it's creating necking of the film and causing the sheets to curl side to side. Now the sheet coming out the back, I'm going to test this to make sure that they're laying nice and flat. I can make my final adjustment for my decurl. So once this sheet comes out, I want to hang it at the top, and you can see it's naturally hanging nice and flat. So I know that my decurl is set. If I was getting my sheet curled like this, I would want to do more decurling. So if my sheet is curled like a canoe, then I would increase my decurling. So if the sheet is like this, I want to turn this knob clockwise. If my sheets are coming out like this, then I want to turn my decurler counterclockwise. And that you will just adjust as you see fit, because every stock is going to be different, the environment is going to be different, and the laminate film that you're running may change. I'm now running at speed 4, which is a comfortable speed for an operator to be running. You want to do an adhesion test to ensure that the film is sticking correctly anytime you're doing a long production run. And we'll show that afterwards how to test the adhesion. Okay, now we're going to show a film changeover while the machine is still in a warm state. So if we're switching out either at the end of the roll or if we're going from one material to a different material, you can do this while the machine is warm, and that is what I'm going to demonstrate. First, remove the front safety shield. Second, you're going to want to take a knife and always cut in this area here. Always cut above this idler bar, never cut down in here. You can risk nicking the chrome roller. I just let that film drape down. I remove my upper roll. Now I take my new roll of material, ensuring that I got the adhesive on the correct side. You always want to make sure that the adhesive is facing out. If my roll width is the same dimension, I can just undo the rubber ring and reload using the same rubber ring. If I'm going to a wider roll, then I may need to move my collar on the non-operator side over or in a little bit. You always want to keep your film centered on the laminator. In this case, I'm using a 12 3/4 wide film, and my current film in here was 12 3/4. Next, I want to take this tail of film and use caution that this film doesn't wrap around and touch that chrome roller. So what I'm going to do is roll this film up. Then I take it and put a slight 45, touch it to itself, the same on this side, touch the film to itself. And now that film is fused to itself, and as you can see, my chrome roller is still nice and clean, as you can see there. Now I take my upper film, and I'm going to go around this idler roller, being careful to make sure that you get the film spread out left and right, nice and cleanly. Here again, I'm going to take it and I'm going to do about 3 or 4 wraps. Bring it over top of the other film. Now I do the same again. I do a little rollover, touch that side. On the operator side, roll it over, touch the film to itself. The two films have now fused together, and I've already got paper and film webbed through the machine, so my paper path is correct. I can now take my safety shield, put this back in place, lock my safety interlock. Now I can load my next sheet of paper. So what I want to do, I want to make sure that this clears itself all the way out the back of the machine. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to underlap this sheet, and I'm now going to touch and hold the load button. And I'm going to advance this sheet through the laminator. And it's normal to see some wrinkles or hear some noise. Pause it temporarily. Now I'm going to put my next sheet of paper in. Hold the load button again. And I'm going to bring it till this sheet is in between my 2 dots. Now I'm going to go around the back side of the machine. And as you can see, here's where my film overlapped and came through. And now you can see my sheet is looking nice all the way through the laminator. Now I'm ready to set my job up and go ahead and run my next job. So in this case, I can now take my sheets, bring it right up to that gate, make sure that my sheet length is set correctly, My temperature is correct. On this one, the sheet length, I'm going to put it at 19 inches. My temperature is set correctly. Now I can go ahead and run the machine. So I'm going to touch the run button. It's going to take that first sheet. And once that first sheet advances through, I can go ahead and turn the cutting module on. That is how to load a laminator film to film when it's still hot. Now we're going to show changing from lamination film, switching over to running our Sleek Pro foil material over a digital print. To do the changeover, currently the machine is in a warm state, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this film. Start by just taking the key off. Go ahead, cut my lamination film. Can now remove this roll of laminate. Loading my Sleek Pro foil on, I take my roll of foil, slide it right over, and on my foil material I want it coming off the bottom so that my adhesive side is what's going to be facing out. And my shiny silver surface is what's going to be touching the chrome roller. Set my rubber ring. I'm now going to move this inset a little bit so it holds the foil. Here again, make sure you do not over tighten this screw. Always tighten it with the short portion of the Allen key, just finger tight. Now I can replace and lock the cantilever shaft. Now around the front of the machine I can remove my safety tray. Here again, I'm going to take this laminate film. I'm going to wrap it a few times. Do a fold over, stick the film to itself. As you can see, so I've folded over both my edges and that film is just laying there nicely. I now take my new foil and bring it around the idler bar, bring it over top of the lamination film, and I can just smoothly bring that down, stick that foil right to the laminate film. As you notice, this roller currently is at about 213 degrees, but I can quickly tap it without burning myself. Now my foil is in position. I can go ahead and replace a safety shield. Now I'm going to insert one sheet of paper through the machine. That will just assist during the transition. I'm going to put that in place, and I'm going to go ahead and touch the load button. And I'm going to bring this sheet all the way through. Now, as you can see, unlike laminate film, I don't always have to have a sheet protecting my bottom roller from my silver foil, because this foil will only activate over top of toner. So now I can actually continue running this sheet out without a sheet of paper in there. So I'm going to hold the load button again. Now when I come to the back of the machine, you'll see my sheet that had lamination, and then now I have loose foil. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go ahead and make that cut, remove this sheet. I can now take my foil and I can pull it towards the back of the machine. And as you can see, I've come outside around this bar. Take this foil and bring it up and over around my take-up mandrel. Now I'm just going to take a piece of packaging tape, take this tape, and I'm just going to be taping this tail to the core. And you want that to lay nice and flat so that there's not excessive wrinkles when that's rewinding. So I generally like sticking it to the loose tail, as you can see, and then pulling it nice and taut and sticking it to the material. And then I like to do one clean winding. Now I'm ready to run my sleeking job. Right here, this is my next change that I want to make. I want to make sure when I'm going to foiling that I put that in the release position. I also want to take my decurl and turn this counterclockwise so that where my decurling bar is striking the foil, I want that to be smooth. So I want my sheet to go flat all the way through the machine. So I've now done the decurling so that my sheet down in this area will go perfectly flat through the machine. I'm now ready to run my job. So the sheet that I'm going to be running, this is just a 13 by 19 that has toner on the sheet. I'm going to take this, put this in position, and my first sheet is going to be a dummy sheet. So I'm going to touch the load button, advance this in until the tail of my sheet is at this point. So now I release that, and now on my take up, this was rewinding the foil correctly. If I needed more tension on this, there is a control knob on the non-operator side that when you turn clockwise, it increases the tension. Turning it counterclockwise will reduce the amount of tension on this rewind shaft. So now I'm ready to run my job. I'm going to take my sheet, bring it up to the gate. My temperature for this is around 213. I'm going to lower that a little bit for this application. I can probably put this down around 205, which it will quickly go down as soon as I run a couple sheets. It will reduce. My pressure setting for doing Sleek Pro, I generally want the needle at the 12 o'clock point, which is 0.5 bar of pressure. So you lift up the regulator valve, lift it up, turn the knob until your needle is at the desired pressure setting, and then you push down on the regulator valve until you hear that snap. That will lock it in that position. Once you run a sheet, you take a look and make sure it looks correctly before you do your long run. In case you need to adjust temperature or pressure setting or speed. Those are the three variables that you can always adjust, as well as you want minimal tension on the unwind. So that is controlled by the tension knob up here. We want to make sure that there's just a very slight bit of resistance on that foil. If you have too much tension on here, the foil will do picking or put lines in your finished product. So you want minimal tension on the supply mandrel. I'm going to go ahead and hit run, and then I'm going to put the speed down to 2 just while I run a few sheets out. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the run button. And I'm going to turn the speed down to 2. Now it's taken my sheets in. I'll go ahead and set my next sheet in place. Now at the back of the machine, you can see my sheet is coming off. This is my first sheet through. You can see where that pause point was, so that's why we said the first sheet will be ruined. So my next sheet coming out. Now I'm going to take a look at this sheet. And as you can see, it's laying down very nicely. My foil is smooth and I'm getting perfect clean lines, so I know I'm set to run for production. That is how the sleeking process is done utilizing our foil. I'm now going to do a production run with our Sleek Pro application utilizing our silver iridescent foil. Currently running this at speed 4, which is a comfortable speed for doing foiling. Okay, now we're going to remove our iridescent Sleek Pro foil, and I'm going to be going ahead and putting on our hollow sparkle Sleek Pro material. To do that, I'm going to put some slack on the roll. Now take this material and I cut it back here. Go ahead and remove my roll. I can take my new roll of material. Here again, it's coming off the bottom of the roll. Now I take my tail of foil and I can drape it right up over this current roll. So take a piece of packaging tape. I'm going to go ahead, stick that right to that roll. My tape was a little long. So now I've stuck the material to the new material. We're going to go ahead and run a sheet through. Tap the load button. That's going to pull all the way through the machine and come back up. Now I know that that material is completely through the machine. I can go ahead and run my job now. So first I'm going to start with a dummy sheet. I'm going to touch the load button, bring that through till my paper's roughly in that position, in between my two silver knobs. The sheet that I'm running right now is a 12 by 18, so you want to make sure that your sheet length is set accordingly to what your sheet length of your paper is. You want to ensure that your temperature is set correctly. This material, I'm going to run this material at about 205 Fahrenheit. Now I'm ready to run my job. Take my first sheet, load it up against the front gate. I'm going to adjust my pressure setting to about 5 bar of pressure. Now I'm ready to run the job. So here again, this application, we're running Sparkle hollow foils. Go ahead and hit run. As you can see, I've now put a sparkle effect over top of the toner, and you can see the color of the toner, but it now has a complete hologram effect to it. This particular material we're using is a one-time use product, and this sheet, I can over-laminate over top of this, and the effect will still remain. I can also go back through my digital press, and I can print other images or wording on this sheet so that there's a sharp contrast between the areas that I wanted with my Sleek Pro technology to a regular print. We're now going to show loading our Sleek Pro foil onto the machine when there's been no material through the machine at this point. So right now my laminator is completely clean. I removed my pin, load my foil onto the mandrel, replace my rubber grip ring, lock my cantilever support back in place. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this loose foil and I'm going to tape a sheet of paper to it. So what I start by doing, I'm going to I take a piece of clear packaging tape, and it's just longer than the foil. And now I've put some tape onto this foil. Next, I take my clean sheet of paper, tape it, and then wrap the tape around the edge of the paper on both sides. I've now taped my sheet to my foil. Now from the front, I remove my safety shield. I take my sheet of paper, bring it under this idler roll. And now on the operator's side, I put a slight curl in the paper, and that helps me to go through the rollers and stay above the guide plate. So I generally insert this corner first, insert that through. As you can see, I'm doing this sheet on a bit of an angle, and then once it's through that rollers, I straighten my sheet back out again. Take up a little bit of slack, and now if you look here, my sheet of paper, I can guide that through my pull rollers. And I can bring this right through the back of the machine. Now my sheet, I've pulled right through the machine. Now what I'm going to do is take my knife, I cut this foil off. Now I take this foil, pull it towards myself, I go under this mandrel, and then up over the top of my rewind mandrel. Now I'm going to a piece of tape and tape this to the core. So here again, some clear packaging tape. I stick it to the silver foil first. I pull this nice and taut so you can see how the wrinkles have been removed when I pull this nice and taut and even. And I want to make sure that this film is lined up with my supply roll in a general sense. That will keep it the least amount of wrinkles. I go ahead and I stick that tape to itself. Generally do one clear winding. Now my machine is loaded. I can replace my safety shield on the front. Ensure that my safety interlock is in place. Ensure that my button is in the release mode. And make sure that my decurling is in the complete counterclockwise position so that my foil is completely flat going through the decurl station. I'm now ready to run my job.